I hope not too many are still eating their lunch, but in case they have to join us. So my name is Magnus Melander. I've spent some 30 years in ICT in general, 20 years with American IT companies, IBM, Apple Computers, and 3Com. I spent 6 years as an investor in wireless. I spent 8 years as an entrepreneur in this whole space. And since 2 years, I'm driving my own consultancy on Internet of Things, helping decision makers to figure out the value for them and their business of the technology. And in my view, the key to the whole issue is data. It is not a communication type of industry or challenge. It's a data issue. And as such, I think what we call specialist service enablers is really the key to the whole success of implementations of M2M or Internet of Things. I also use the words M2M and Internet of Things without any specific definitions. We can spend the whole session on talking about what is what. And with me today, I have 3 very senior speakers who have their own views of this, and I will try to moderate this. But before we get going, I want to make a quick introduction to the whole area of service enablement, the way I see it, where I'm coming from. So to me, there is no Internet of Things, actually. It's only one Internet, and I think it's actually misleading to talk about Internet of Things. The power of the whole thing is that we are adding a new component to the Internet. And as always, when we add new components to existing things, the impact might be much, much bigger. So I think we've gone through the Internet of people and businesses, and we all know what that meant and what happened. And we are now adding the things, and we're going to have an even more important and powerful Internet. And if you follow what happened when we connected people and businesses to Internet, there were really 3 different kind of phases. The first phase was all about connectivity. You should be an Internet service provider 20 years ago, and you were the king. You got the biggest cars and everything, because everything was about connections. And then people started to use this in their existing business. You figured that you didn't have to print manuals, maybe. You could have them on the intranet and things like that. Very basic stuff. What I call operational values. You save money, you save time, you get more efficient, and so forth. And after a while, people started to recognize that you could utilize the data that were created to do completely new things. And things like Google was born. Google was not invented before we started to connect people to Internet. I think when we talk about the Internet of Things or M2M, exactly the same thing will happen again. And you remember Ericsson said 50 billion devices 2 or 3 years ago. That was kind of mind-blowing to some people. We are already left that stage. We are already into the operational benefits now, and people are starting to do things, which I think is great. So data, to me, is the goal of M2M. When you lead a client or somebody into the process of utilizing Internet of Things, you have to take those 2 steps. First, the operational issues. Where can we save money? Where can we be quicker? Where can we be faster? Where can we save energy? Where can we save employees or whatever? And then you take people into what can we use the data we create for. In simple terms, if you connect a vending machine, you immediately see that you don't have to drive there too many things. You will have a machine that's always ready to sell. It's never gone empty. But then when you start to figure out how much Coke you sell on a Friday, or when the temperature is this big or that low, then you start to see the real value of M2M. This is a wonderful map that a good friend of mine did some years ago. I think it's the best possible way to visualize the issues we are facing with M2M. That it's only when the technology ends up in the middle of a business of someone that it starts to make sense. And a business could be a baker in Bologna. He runs his bakery. And what does 50 billion devices mean to me as a baker? He's out somewhere here. He has issues. He has already IT systems and everything that has to be part of a solution. So there are no holy grails for M2M. There are no huge markets that everybody can just jump on. And the ones we are talking about today as huge is energy. But you have to remember that that's a doping to the market, because it's a political decision that we should do smart meters and so. It's good, but it's not true market-driven applications of M2M. And I would argue that we are in a similar path when it comes to vehicles as well, because the e-call directive is a political directive. The idea to connect cars to make them call ambulances when you have an accident, that was invented 10, 15 years ago. And when people had to pay for that service, they didn't, so it didn't work. So I think this is very important to have in mind. And customers, if they're going to buy anything, they need to understand why it's good for me. So we have to go specialized approaches to market after market, to customer after customer, to find solutions for them. And this is the huge issue, because communication is generic. A mobile network or something is completely generic. So connectivity is generic. And I just tried to prove that we need specific applications. It's going to be very expensive to develop applications from connectivity all the way to the bakery in Bologna. So the magic, or the thing we need in the middle, is what I refer to as service enablers. That's people or companies who understand the issues of connectivity and the issues of IT, where they're going to hook into, but they also understand the context, the industry they are active in. The road is already over for people who just connect things and put the data on the internet. That is not good enough. It was good enough 2 years ago, but today you have to put it in context. I always talk about the sleep monitoring system. So, we started to have the ability to record your dreaming, so sleeping patterns, and then collect the data and put it on the internet. Well, today there are probably 50 of those, and tomorrow there will be hundreds of those. So which one will be the best? Obviously the one who has an expert who says, well, I can look at your data and tell you how you should change your life to sleep better. That will be a superior solution. And that goes for all industries, I think. So the service enablement is really complicated. You have to understand the telecoms, the communication issues, and the IT issues, and you also have to be specialized on something. And there are 3 different ways, business models, to do this. You can be an operator trying to build yourself into a specific service enablement position in a specific industry, which is very difficult. They normally don't want to do that because they don't have the skills of a specific industry. But theoretically you can. You can have an in-house solution. So I always guess that Rolls-Royce, when they sell their engines for airplanes, that they have this connected to an in-house system, because I wouldn't like somebody else to manage that data. That would be too complicated. Or you go to a third party, which I think is the best way to start, at least. So by understanding the information that you actually gather, that's how you will be superior. Now, if some of you have read, there's a wonderful book about Geoffrey Moore, about how you cross the chasm, how you take great technology and you make it into a good business. I think that is, for the last 10 years, I've never seen an area where this is so relevant as in this case. So if you don't have anything else to do, read Geoffrey's book. This is a very crazy picture, because I think this has to be a global industry and a local industry. We have to serve the baker in Bologna, but we also have to have the scale of operations and so forth from networks and things. And this is why I think it takes a lot of time, because the operators and the providers to the operators and those people, they try to make this a global thing, but the solutions themselves have to be local. The baker in Bologna has a local integrator or software developer, somebody who helped him build his systems, and somebody will have to take all of this and make sure it integrates well into what he has. So I think there are 2 forces. Operators are slowly but steadily adding capabilities of delivering services, whereas on the customer side, we are trying to find ways to get all the way down to the operators, so to speak, or the networks. I've started an alliance in Sweden of companies who qualify to this specific definition of specialist service enablers. And it's quite amazing. We are already at 10. This is very informal, and we are already at 10. I will add 2 more now. And each of those, they do exactly this. It's typically small companies. They are very specialized in a specific area. And one of them is here, Eric, represents SpringWorks. Another one is Xavier, who's from Spain, so he's not in my alliance, but he's a good friend anyway, and he's doing the same thing as well. And then finally I have Jan, and I haven't heard his presentation before, so we'll see what fun that's going to be. I will be surprised. We are already sponsored by all the operators. I think this is great, because they all see that this is a good way forward to actually capitalize and monetize on Internet of Things. So my only kind of big thing to bring with you home is that decision makers in any industry, in any organization, they will have to understand what M2M or Internet of Things will do to their industry and themselves. Because when the first era of Internet happened, ignorance was kind of acceptable. People lost the train, but they missed the train, but they still got the job. I think this time people will not keep the job. Ignorance is not okay. Everybody knows this is happening. It's going to happen to you and to you and to you and to you, and you have to get on top of what's going on. You don't have to do anything, that's up to you, but you have to be on top of what's going on. With that, I will leave to Eric.